You know we love spooky things. This is why we fell in love with Michigan-based LynBDesigns. When I popped the pumpkin spice all the things wax melt into my burner, my home was filled with the delicious buttery scent. Plus, there's the wide variety of gorgeous nail polishes with themes like Hocus Pocus and Pleasant Peninsula. All products are vegan and cruelty-free, and you can find monthly sales on Facebook and Instagram at LynBDesigns. Head to lynbdesigns.store today. Again, that's LYNB designs.store.
We love them. We love you. It's great nail polish. It's the best I've ever used. Thanks!
Huron Valley, the 1970s. 4 rooms, 4 stories, 1 hotel. Neighborhood Theater Group presents The Hotel Del Gado, an anthology of short plays by A.M. Dean, Megan Murphy, Greg Pizzino, and Aaron C. Wade, March 7th through 9th, and 14th through 16th at the Back Office Studio in downtown Ypsilanti. For tickets and information, visit ntgypsy.org. That's ntgypsi.org.
Michiganders can be a superstitious bunch. We find all sorts of reasons to explain the world around us, sometimes pulling from science, sometimes tradition, and sometimes from our imaginations. What happens when we can't readily explain our experiences? And what happens when a ghost story gets out of hand? Do these legends stem entirely from fantasy, or are people seeing things no one can truly explain?
I'm Crysta K. Coburn.
And I'm Kay Gray.
Welcome to Haunted Mitten. Welcome back! Thanks for joining us for another episode of Haunted Mitten. Tonight we're finally talking about the tragic tale and haunting of Minnie Quay. We are very lucky to not be some of the first folks to have researched her. Our jobs were made much easier by lovely people like Ambrose Hammond, love you, who took on the task of finding the truth behind Minnie's story and wrote an extensive dive into it in her book, Mysterious Michigan. We highly recommend it. Also the website.
It's such a good book.
Yeah, just Google that.
And
Google
website.
That. Great.
Love both of them.
Yeah, good stuff.
But for those who aren't familiar or are like me and thought her second name was Quay and still has a hard time hearing it in my head as anything but, there are 2 versions of this story. The one told by Marion Kuklo, otherwise known as the Witch Gundella, in her 1992 book Michigan Haunts and Hauntings, tells of a young Minnie falling in love with a sailor who visited her town of Forester often, as it was a major hub of the lumber industry in the latter half of the 1800s. Even though her parents strongly disapproved of the match, Minnie kept watch for her love on the shores of Lake Huron. However, in 1876, news came to Forester that the ship ferrying Minnie's bow had wrecked and all aboard were lost to the lakes.
Devastated, Minnie threw herself into Lake Huron. She drowned, unable to carry on without her young sailor boy. It makes for a tragically romantic tale, and one that was even turned into a novel by Denise M. Dutcher called Dead Reckoning, a Great Lakes Love Story.
Have read pieces of it, have not read the whole thing. It's not bad. Not bad.
That's a Kindle only, correct?
At this point, yeah. Or I think it might be on the Internet Archive.
Oh, okay.
But I think at this point it's Kindle only.
I did try to add it to our book list, but
yeah,
not in print. And I believe Marion Kuklo's book also very hard to find.
Yeah, they're
not
older,
surprising.
So,
yeah, it's not.
Yeah. So the second version of the story is much closer to the truth. According to Hammond in Mysterious Michigan, Minnie and a sailor had indeed been seeing each other every time he came into port. Forester is a very small town. Quoting from Mysterious Michigan, their time together began to generate malicious rumors and gossip. Rumors that she was ruined and possibly pregnant with the soldier's child.
People love to gossip.
Oh, yeah.
Her parents forbid her from seeing the sailor ever again, as you might imagine, and try as she might, Minnie couldn't dissuade them of the notion that she'd been having sex with him. At 3 p.m., April 27th, 1876, Minnie walked to the pier on the lake and threw herself into the water. Her body was dredged up from the frigid waters of Lake Huron, and her parents had a doctor examine the body for signs that the rumors about Minnie were true. The doctor found no such evidence of her being pregnant and or sexually active, but there were no details given. It is incredibly messed up that her parents didn't believe their own daughter even after death.
I'm baffled.
What kind of relationship did they have? Just
Right?
obviously not a good one.
Not a good one. Because she dies and they're like, fucking check her. See if she's pregnant.
I mean, it could be that they were trying to put the rumors in town to rest, but we don't know that. We just know that they looked for evidence.
Yep. As you might imagine, the story was a sensation in the news at the time. But there isn't anything written about the poor sailor or if he ever even found out about his girlfriend's death. However, legend states that Minnie's ghost still wanders the shoreline. Some stories say that she merely walks the shores looking for her sailor to dock. Others say that she tries to lure other young women into the water to drown them as she drowned. One commenter from hauntedplaces.org wrote in 2019, quote, "My friend's grandparents own a lake house where she jumped off the dock. My friend said that once she fell off the dock and felt someone pulling her leg. She also claims that you can still hear her scream on the day that she died."
What a story.
Good Lord.
Good horror legend.
So either this ghost just walks around looking for her lost love, or
Yeah,
this ghost tries to murder other young women.
or she's a creature of legend and tries to murder people. So many creatures in history throughout the world trying to lure people to their death in the water. This is just
all of these
fairly
creatures.
one.
All these creatures are just like really love murder or really hate humans.
Just really into luring humans to drown.
Yep.
Everywhere.
Like
Everywhere in the world has these creatures.
Yep.
But this is not, or these are not, the only legends. There's also a legend associated with her gravesite. Minnie is buried in the family plot in Forester Township Cemetery near the waters of Lake Michigan. It's like right along the beach almost. There's a
Huron, not Michigan.
Oh, sorry. Near the waters of Lake Huron. And there's like the graveyard, which is small, a fence, and the beach.
Yep. It's right there.
It's when we say it's near the waters of Lake Huron, it's right there. Not quite sure how they managed to bury people. Denise Dutcher, author of the novel about Minnie that we mentioned earlier, said this about her grave, quote, "The gravestone used to be an old limestone gravestone. Since limestone is so porous, it cracked, and it is said that her spirit escaped from the gravestone. The legend also says that if you don't leave something, her spirit will follow you." End quote.
So I like the idea. Well, I kind of don't, but the idea that a dead person's spirit is trapped in their literal gravestone.
And I feel like I've seen this used in fiction before, where like a gravestone cracks and then, oh no, the bad spirit is released or something.
Yeah.
They kind of use that in Bride of Boogedy. The stone cracks.
Oh, yeah.
And the statue cracks above the grave, which why they built a statue to a man everyone hated, I don't know, but yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
I mean, is it
I got nothing.
I think in most stories it's probably just used symbolically, but it definitely does feel like, oh no, the cracking of the stone has released the spirit.
Right?
But that we have seen that used in fiction. So that
that's true.
That is interesting that this is the spirit trapped in the stone. Is the stone keeping them down in the grave? And once the stone is no longer whole, the spirit is able to escape the grave. Like,
right.
So many questions for such a simple little metaphor. Visual metaphor.
So we visited her grave back in, I don't remember which summer.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was 24 or 23. I believe I wrote about it on Patreon.
Yeah.
Um,
I could have
so
just checked, but I totally forgot.
I mean, the
And
last,
I'm so bad with memory and time that
yeah,
they're
yeah.
all blurred.
I was gonna say the last few years have been kind of a blur. I remember moments. I don't necessarily remember them in order or when they occurred chronologically.
Right. Yeah, I just don't know. I don't know if it was this past summer, if it was the summer before that. Who knows? Uh,
Yeah, I want to say last summer, but like I said, time is
I don't know. It could have
kind of
been 23 as well. Who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway, super recently,
Yep.
we visited her
Yep.
grave. And I think I left something. I think I had a scent or something.
Yeah,
on
I
me.
think we found like some pennies.
I found some change.
Yeah.
So I did feel a heaviness to her section of the cemetery that I don't normally feel in those spaces. I'm not very sensitive when it comes to paranormal things. I can't walk into a space and tell you that it's haunted. Unfortunately, I can't do any of that stuff. I spent some time knelt at the headstone just talking and thinking about Minnie. I ended up not tempting fate that she'd follow me home. I didn't do it. But just, I knew that she was still loved and remembered in the town. Her grave is covered in offerings, from pretty rocks to change to toys. Like, her grave is not hard to find.
No, not really. We definitely wandered a bit because it's a pretty old graveyard, still being used, I believe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because it's a small community.
Yeah.
So it was interesting, and you have like the constant, like the waves crashing on the other side of the fence, kind of as a soundtrack, I guess you could say.
It was really peaceful. It was just really lovely cemetery.
It was. It would have been nice to be able to actually see the beach from there, but I'm sure they probably had to put up all kinds of walls and fortifications, kind of to protect.
Otherwise, one giant storm and that cemetery is no longer keeping things buried.
I wonder if the water used to be further out.
Oh, I don't know.
Because I know Huron has had quite a bit of erosion. All of the lakes have, but I know people who own land and property on Huron.
Yes.
and there's been quite a lot of erosion.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's clearly remembered. And we've had people at live events ask us if we knew of her legend. And I had read it, probably in Marion Kuklow's book, actually. Is probably where I first encountered it. But it's certainly not a legend I grew up with, you know?
Oh, yeah, no.
But it's
on your side of the state, probably not.
It's a very romantic tale. I will give it that. And the fact that she really did die in this way. We don't necessarily know all the circumstances around it, but I mean, it was a known thing. People wrote about it. Like,
it's in the newspaper. Her obituary is there. It's a little article saying at 3, whatever time it was, 3:20 or something, she went into the lake.
Yep.
And she did not come out.
Yeah. So it's interesting that it's grown into this like kind of beautiful romantic story when like, no, it's not that old. It wasn't that long ago. It was in the newspaper, you know, it's not that long ago that people would have known her or remembered her, remembered this happening. So it's an interesting story in that way. Of course, now us being Haunted Mitten and me being me and loving to get down into the nitty gritty of things. As we said, we found her obituary. We like to look into stuff. We searched for shipwrecks around that time because although the story of Minnie doesn't involve her sailor dying in a wreck, we wanted to know where that part of the story came from. I mean, there were a ton of wrecks around Michigan and all of the lakes in the 1800s, but let us look up shipwrecks, okay?
We're gonna anyway.
It's a special interest. So here's a list of possibilities that we dug up.
The SS Comet sank in Whitefish Bay on the 26th of August, 1875, just 1 year before her death, after colliding with the Manitoba. 10 lives were lost. Cornelia B. Windiet was a schooner that sank in 1875 with all hands in Lake Huron off Presque Isle. Per Wikipedia, quote, in 1980, Yeah, okay. I was getting my dates. They were switching up dates in my head.
Mhm.
In 1986, the Windiet was discovered by divers at a depth of 185 feet, 56 meters, in Lake Huron near Alpena, Michigan, farther east than expected. The wreck is unique in that her cargo is still secure in her holds, which is quite unusual for a wreck. Her masts are still standing with rigging, end quote. Another schooner, J.W. Langmuir, wrecked on October 7th, 1875, but it was reported all hands survived. Stephen F. Gale was a schooner that went down in Lake Erie late November of 1876, and all hands were lost, including a cat.
That poor cat.
Oh,
That makes me sad.
I don't like that part.
Yeah.
I mean, sad for the people too. We're just
yeah. I do
we're animal people.
appreciate that they included the cat.
Right?
Like the cat was included in the manifesto or the manifest or he was considered a part of the ship community.
Mm-hmm.
Good cat. Keeping the
good
rats
cat.
away.
Yeah.
I'd say enough ships went down to warrant that being a thing people would associate with Minnie's death. Again, romantic story. Probably a thing that most people associated sailors with how often ships went down in the lakes. We've talked about other things too.
Yeah.
About women, their sailor left, I think, was it the inn in Marquette? I think was another one where she was waiting for her man to return, her sailor to return. And I mean, for as many shipping as there was, and then of course ships going down, like I feel like that would be a common thing for you waiting for your boyfriend or husband to return.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it makes sense to me that people would start the rumor that it must have been that she lost her love.
Yeah, she died of a broken heart.
So many other people have.
Right. And that's it's a little more romantic than he just left and didn't come back.
Right. Because that was his job. And she was sick of... I feel like her parents didn't believe her that she wasn't, having sex with the boy, that she wasn't pregnant. The townsfolk didn't believe her.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And what options did she have? Like it's easy to say, like, oh, well,
none.
You just sort of not cared. It's like, well, no, you're allowed to care. And she didn't have many options. She couldn't just get up and leave. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely not. And yeah. And like the sailor wasn't there all the time to like help defend or marry her. Her parents did not want her to marry a sailor. Yeah.
And it would have been difficult to run off with him because she wouldn't have been allowed on the ship with him.
Right. Where were they going to go?
Right. And he could have died in one of these shipwrecks. Ships did wreck. I mean, we did find them, but surprisingly few. I think for that time period. But the late 1800s, we were getting pretty good at shipping. Ships were getting pretty solid, but obviously they still wrecked. Obviously people still died. I mean, ships still wreck on the lakes, but people are still lost. People are still lost from docks.
Yep.
Like Lake Michigan, South Haven and Lake Michigan, there are sacrifices every year to the lake.
That's a good way of putting it.
I think my personal theory is the lake claims them as some kind of like ancient understanding with humans, but
man,
people are also just stupid. People are just stupid.
You are not helping me go swimming.
Just don't. Don't be stupid. Like, if it's a red flag
Sorry
day.
To anybody who has lost someone to drowning in the Great Lakes.
If it's a red flag day, don't go out on the lakes.
Oh my God, don't.
And that's where a lot of these people get taken essentially by the lake. It's a red flag day, and they're like, I'm gonna ignore that, and I'm gonna walk out on the pier anyway and get swept away.
Right. Yeah, especially like in winter.
It's really tragic.
On those piers. Don't walk out to the lighthouse. Just stay away.
Do I walk out to
Anyway.
lake houses on piers? Yes, I do. But I don't do it on red flag days or really yellow flag days.
Oh no, green only.
Yes. Yes, be safe. The lakes are big
Be
and
safe.
scary and they kill people.
Yeah.
Be safe.
But
Always.
also accidents happen, so sorry anybody who has lost somebody because of drowning in lakes.
Drowning definitely can happen anywhere.
Yeah. Anyway, as far as we know, that's everything associated with Minnie Quay. She's a very tragic figure in Michigan history, and I think a super relatable one.
Oh, yeah.
Especially for younger people.
Yeah, for sure.
But that is not all we have for you this evening. Don't worry. It turns out that there's a few other hauntings happening around the town of Forester. So here's a little bit more on this quaint township and the surrounding area.
Which is very lovely if you haven't been. We spent a fantastic afternoon there. Did you know that there was a massive and devastating fire in September 1881 that killed 282 people and destroyed over 1 million acres of forest?
I only do because I researched it. Otherwise, no idea.
No, I've certainly heard of great fires in Michigan, but the ones I know of are in Southwest Michigan, where I grew up. This one is referred to as the Great Thumb Fire or the Great Forest Fire of 1881. Due to an unusually dry summer, hurricane force winds, the air's logging techniques, which were not great, and the previous damage from a fire in 1871, conditions were perfect for starting the blaze. 99.1 WFMK states that many homesteaders refused to evacuate, stupid, leading to the soaring death count from the fire, but this can't be confirmed.
Why do we always accidentally write relevant to current situation episodes?
Yeah, God, unfortunately relevant.
Good Lord, this happens a lot.
And certainly some of these people could have, maybe they couldn't get away for whatever reason, due to a disability or something.
Yeah,
but that's a lot of people.
Yeah. No, I can imagine there were plenty of either like elderly or somehow disabled folks that were like,
yeah,
can't go anywhere.
How am I going to leave? I'm just going to write this out. But there are also a lot of really stubborn people. This is Michigan we're talking about.
That's true. That is true. But a fun side fact, Clara Barton founded the American Red Cross in 1881, and the Great Thumb Fire was the first disaster the organization responded to. The large number of deaths from this fire also led to widespread firefighting reform in Michigan. So a lot of change happened. Good things did come out of it, but it's really sad.
But it's devastating that took that. But yay, firefighting. I have firefighters in my family and family background, so woo! Shout out to firefighters. We love you and what you do for us. It's not.
We do. Thank you so much.
It's a dangerous job.
I'm from Los Angeles. I cannot thank firefighters enough.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. You deserve so much. You deserve all the pay and all the vacation that you could possibly handle.
And all the health care, because it is not good on your lungs.
All the health care. All of it to you for free. You deserve all of it. Thank you.
Yeah. After this, these people should be set for life.
Yeah, they really should. They won't be because America, but they really should.
Yep. Unfortunately, but yeah, go firefighters. You're amazing. Good job.
You're so great. Thank you.
Anyway, back to the township, not necessarily this fire. This also led to a large number of burials, as you can imagine, with any kind of large tragedy.
Yeah.
And Forester Township Cemetery grew exponentially after the fire. This unfortunately included an entire family of 9 with the last name Wilson. WFMK says, quote, "People say they have witnessed the figures of young school-age boys running through the graveyard every Wednesday night at midnight. It's believed they are the spirits of the Wilson boys who died in the fire. Others get the feeling it could be other youngsters who died in the fire." End quote. That's like clockwork. That's crazy.
Yeah. And John Keel writes about how statistically, most paranormal events occur on Wednesday nights. So
No
I
way.
find it super interesting that the boys are only seen then. And I guess I got to get back to Forrester on a Wednesday.
Yeah. I don't remember what day of the week it was we went. It was not at night though.
Yeah.
No, we were back at the lake
No,
by
it was
night.
yeah, it was very much the middle of the day.
Yeah.
So,
We went for lunch.
yes. But yeah, that's so interesting. If it's like clockwork, I gotta just hang out. I'll just hang out.
Yeah. I know a lovely inn you can stay at. It's right down the road.
Yeah, it turns out. We'll be talking about that in just a couple minutes. So I also watched the episode of the Dead Files about I believe it was they were never quite just full on this is Minnie Quay's family's house.
Okay.
They kind of stayed around the edges a little bit, but gave out the legend, the wrong legend, and very much gave off a very strong impression that they were investigating Minnie Quay's family's house.
Okay. Did it look old?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it
Okay.
definitely could have been. Yeah.
Okay.
Disappointed in this episode. This is actually the only episode of the Dead Files I've ever seen. I'm not a huge fan of paranormal TV. Just some highlights, I guess, was there is like the researcher guy and then the chick who's a medium.
Mhm.
And so she goes into the house without knowing anything about the house. And the guy either confirms or denies based off of his research and talking with the family and things.
Okay. Familiar with that duo.
Yeah.
That kind of duo.
The medium was quote unquote possessed by a big burly man with calloused hands. He either lived there or owned the property at one time. There were voices and footsteps and objects moving, and that was growing progressively more intense the longer that current family, and I think this came out in like 2012, then that family then was experiencing the longer they lived there. Most activity happened on the second floor. Lights go on and off with the switch actually flipping without being touched. Doors slamming hard enough to make the whole house shake. Shadow people in all of the bedrooms. The medium saw a girl in a yellow dress with very long hair who she said was very unhappy. Quote, wild, especially for her time, unquote. Super talkative girl. The shadow person of a tall, thin man standing in the kitchen that would just like ominously watch them do kitchen things.
I guess it could be worse.
Yeah, could be way worse. The medium thought that these shadow people were essentially psychic creations caused by the family's anxiety that was then like manifested, which just created more anxiety, which just fed back into it and like this feedback loop of anxiety creatures.
Interesting.
They discussed Minnie in a super unflattering manner. They perpetuate the myth that Sailor died, but we have no evidence. We don't know that that's what actually happened.
Right.
I also didn't know where they were getting the extraneous details, like her being a particularly wild girl, or her being engaged to the Sailor, or they said that her parents physically locked her away in her room. They just didn't give sources for that, and that's what I want.
Yeah,
I got it. You got to give me the sources. I just felt that the medium was super disrespectful to the spirits in there. I just didn't like how it was presented at all. I just felt that she was just kind of rude to them, to whatever spirits could be there. I just felt that the whole thing could have been handled so much better with a lot more respect to Minnie's family and Minnie herself. And it was not my favorite episode of paranormal TV ever.
And I would imagine relatives of Minnie still live in this town.
Probably, right?
Again, it wasn't that long ago. Not really.
No, and you know,
and I mean, a person can live for
right?
80 or more years easily, and this was 150 years ago or something. So,
yeah, I don't believe that the family that was living there then had any relation.
Mm-hmm.
I think they just own the house now. Like that's just they just
Yeah.
bought it, but they didn't have any relation to those people. But I can't quite remember.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little bit ago since I watched this from when we were recording.
Right.
So but yeah, overall it was just kind of like, oh, I'm really sorry that that's the version of Minnie that's now going to be
Yeah.
presented to a whole new group of people. That kind of sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Eh,
And like
you can do better.
wild for her time. Like, what? And also, if that were the
Yeah.
case, I feel like she wouldn't have thrown herself into the lake.
Right. Yeah. Like, no, I think she was actually perfectly in her time because she was obviously really hurt by the
Right.
things that were happening to her.
Right. I feel like that might have been an attempt to make her more relatable, like to the modern world.
Maybe.
And
Yeah, maybe.
just-
She was a girl out of her time and she
Yeah.
just couldn't live in such an oppressive, I don't know. I'm speculating, but
That's its own kind of weird romantic thing.
yeah. I don't know. It just left me with a bad taste. I was like, ugh. And I watched this as the last part of all of the research.
Oh.
And I was like, well, nothing I studied before this relates to
Yeah.
or leads to anything in this episode. So,
Yeah.
nope.
A lot of these shows are not exactly known for their historical diligence.
No, that's why paranormal TV is not exactly my favorite.
Yeah. Anything, once it gets popular, it stops being any semblance of real, I guess.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So not far from Forrester, heading south down the coast, is the little town of Lexington. When we visited Minnie, we also had to go have dinner at the Cadillac House. Because
Oh, yeah.
we were there. We're not out in the Thumb area terribly often, at least not that part of it. Opened July 4th, 1860, after a renovation of the original 1840 building, the Cadillac House was a large hotel desperately needed by the bustling and growing logging community of Lexington. The Cadillac House was named after General Antoine de la Motte Cadillac, shocking, the founder of Fort Pontchartrain, later Detroit. We all know Cadillac. Come on.
We here at Haunted Mitten are very aware.
Yeah.
Cadillac.
Cadillac pops up a lot.
A lot.
The main part of the hotel was a 3-story Italianate structure clad in painted clapboard siding, and we can confirm the inn is still looking gorgeous both inside and out. Very well
So good.
maintained, just
Yes, it's
absolutely beautiful.
According to the Cadillac House's website, the hotel was plagued with fires. Or rather, all the surrounding buildings were plagued with fires. While the Cadillac never burned, even in the Great Thumb Fire, the stables did multiple times, and pretty much every building around it caught on fire at least once. Some of it was attributed to arson. And just to make us feel even worse, in the 1940s, a room at the Cadillac cost $1.50 a night. That would only be $38.89 today.
God, inflation is ridiculous.
So just, as while we're all feeling bad about all these fires, let's just add on capitalism. How about that?
Yeah, jeez. So the ghost of the Cadillac has been named George. So many ghosts named George. So I think this is like the third one we've talked about.
Yeah.
The story is that he was murdered in the hotel at a date and time unknown. LostInMichigan.net says that George is stuck in the hotel until his murder is solved. But another theory as to why he's there is that he just really liked the broiled chicken and continues to hang out for the food.
I'm totally down with that.
Sounds like my grandfather. Sounds like something he would do.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe he haunts that restaurant.
If they were broasted chicken, yes.
Yeah.
The Times Herald out of Port Huron wrote about George in 2006 with the same 2 stories given presumably by the owner and bartender interviewed in the article.
Unfortunately, all the sites just say George is a very active poltergeist, but none of them go into any detail about what he actually does.
Amazing.
And more unfortunately, I know. Thanks, everybody. We would like description in our articles. It's fine. And more unfortunately, we didn't experience anything out of the ordinary at the Cadillac House. Just incredible food and a wait staff that didn't mind us asking questions about their ghost.
Yes.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love a good storytelling wait staff.
Yeah, they were totally fine with it.
Crysta did a great write-up of our adventure on Patreon as well. So if you'd like to know more about what we did in the thumb, head over there. We had a good little adventure.
Yeah, we made a nice little day trip out of it, which is like the best way to spend a little day trip.
Yes, agreed.
Looking up haunted locations, going to historic locations, and having amazing food.
It's how we plan vacations. So
yeah, it's fun. Like, I don't know, how else am I supposed to find good places to eat?
Right, it's obviously the haunted ones.
Yeah. Not far from Lexington and Forester is Port Sanilac, another historic and quaint village that got its start from the logging industry. Sensing a theme. One of the pioneer families of Port Sanilac was the Loops. Yes, Loops. Loops. Dr. Joseph, his wife Jane, and their only child, Ada. Joseph and Jane arrived in the area in 1843, homesteading and living in a log cabin until they had enough money to build the gorgeous white-yellow brick home that stands today. Joseph was the first doctor in the area, and his practice ranged out 40 miles to make sure those who needed medical assistance got it.
Incredible. He went a long way back in the day.
Yeah. I mean, he's probably the only one really around, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, he was the doctor.
Yeah.
That's it. After Joseph's passing, the 3-story home was passed down to Ada and her husband, Reverend Julius Harrison, that's such a name, and their 2 sons. Tragically, at the age of 71, Ada was hit by a car while crossing the road. The Times Herald reported, quote, Mrs. Harrison was struck while crossing the street in front of her home here Saturday about 6:30 p.m. Harry Smith is said to have told residents of Port Sanilac at the time that the lights of his car were poor and that he had intended having them repaired at a Port Sanilac garage before proceeding home. End quote. I can't roll my eyes hard enough.
Yeah. Good job, dude.
Great job. A doctor was immediately called to the home where he pronounced Ada dead. It was discovered later that Mr. Smith's headlights had been off at the time of the accident.
Wow. Even better.
Yeah.
Jeez, what an idiot.
What a dumbass.
Perhaps it is Ada's love of her family home, her untimely and sudden death, or just happenstance that leads her to haunt the Loop Harrison mansion. Now, the Museum for Port Sanilac, the mansion is home to plenty of the town and county's artifacts and historical documents, as well as a good deal of the items the Loops owned and used every day. Dawn Malik, retired director of the museum, and her employees experienced Ada's ghost often.
Quoting from a website called Blue Water Healthy Living, who did an interview with Dawn in 2022, quote, Malik said an employee who works alone on the 2nd floor of the museum has encountered Ada more than a few times, recognizing her presence via her perfume. At times, she's even verbally requested the former matriarch shift her location because the scent of her perfume is annoying, end quote.
Oh,
incredible.
Rude.
Maybe she doesn't. Maybe she can't handle scents. You know, it's a thing.
Maybe.
And Detroit Paranormal Expeditions posted, quote, paranormal encounters have been reported by guests and staff throughout the historic village and museum, including disembodied voices, doors slamming on their own, and shadowy apparitions, to name a few of the many types of experiences that have been reported on the property, end quote.
Several websites with wrong factual info on Ada's life also say that drivers see her along the side of the road, and when they stop to help her, she disappears.
We have another white lady, folks.
Another one.
Another hitchhiking ghost.
So many. But also, waymarking.com writes, quote, sometimes at night while driving past the Harrison home, now a museum, motorists have spotted in their rearview mirrors Ada Harrison walking in her flowing dress forever, attempting unsuccessfully to reach the far side of the road. Tradesmen, while servicing the aging mansion, have also felt the cold draft of her movements and seen her troubled image pacing back and forth at the window of her upstairs bedroom, contemplating the very spot outside where she met her tragic end. End quote.
So it seems like you have a decent shot at seeing Ada just about anywhere in or around the mansion. Just
goodness.
Just anywhere.
Good heavens.
Plus, it's a museum, so there's a ton of fun least for nerds like us to have there anyway.
Oh yeah, maybe some of those
So, actually-
artifacts are haunted as well.
Ooh, that would be awesome. So we'll have to stop next time we
Yeah.
have
I would love
have
to
a
see
thumb
the house.
adventure.
Yeah.
The whole area is just gorgeous no matter the season. It's
Oh,
just
yeah.
beautiful. There's the
Yeah.
lake on one side, forests and the old well-loved towns on the other. Even
Mhm.
the drive down and back to our lake house was worth the trip for how beautiful everything was in the middle of summer. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
so good. It was so nice.
It would be
So
really
nice.
pretty in fall. It'd be
Oh
chilly.
my god, I would love
Very
it.
chilly.
Yeah, but think of the
But
colors.
yeah, that would be beautiful. Be a
It'd be
great
so
drive.
nice.
Yeah.
Oh, it'd be such a good drive. Oh no, we have to go to the lake house.
Oh no.
Oh no.
So sad.
I'm so sad. How dare.
Yeah, I will take the lakes in any season. I won't go in them, but I
Oh,
will
sure.
be next to them. Like, yeah, it was just, and it's not a place many people go.
No, it's not like this is a huge tourist area.
Not even a little bit. There are definitely
No.
some summer homes for sure.
Yeah.
But
But we were there in the height of summer and it was just like we had no problems getting a table. The parking was not an issue. It was not super populated.
no, not at all. It's not
Yeah.
like West Michigan and the Lake Michigan shoreline.
Yeah.
Very, very different. Which, makes it maybe a little bit nicer for people to visit.
I think so for sure. I think it's got just as much charm.
Hmm.
And you still got a lake.
Yeah, for sure.
Like it's still there.
Yeah, it's still pretty. You can still go swimming in it.
Yeah. And we do.
Yep. And if anyone has any suggestions on places we need to visit, definitely let us know. Not even if it's haunted, if it's just like, hey, there's this really cool place I went, you should go check it out. I'm open to that too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and there's not a ton of haunted info about places in the thumb. So if you do know of a place that is haunted out there, let us know because it's hard to research that.
Yeah. It's kind of an overlooked area, I think, the thumb.
Mhm. Sorry, farmers.
So yeah, we're sure there's much more to explore, and we'll definitely be going back. I mean, there's absolutely no
Oh, yeah.
question. And yeah, definitely let us know. You can contact us through email, contacthauntedmitten@gmail.com, or social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky. A lot of people are jumping over there if you want to check it out. It's been kind of a fun time.
Yep.
We also, of course, have our Patreon and our book.
Yes.
And also live.
And our book.
And our book. And live shows. And our book. We've done a lot of live shows. We're getting going.
Yeah. But yeah, with all of the trouble surrounding Facebook and Instagram and Meta in general, we would really appreciate if you checked out our Patreon or our Tumblr. We have one of those.
Oh, yeah.
Or Blue Sky. We will not be leaving those platforms. We don't have a big enough base. We love you guys. We don't have a big enough base to not use social media. We have to.
We've connected with so many people. Yeah. We're out there. You can still connect with us. But I mean, go to the website. But yeah, we've been able to connect with people on pretty much all of the social medias in one way or another. So yeah, and we're always happy to talk to you.
We might be less active, but you can always find us. We're not leaving anywhere. Yeah. We can't. We need you guys. We need you guys a whole lot. Thank you for everything you provide.
Social media manager.
Yeah, because if anybody is bored and wants to do that,
I have
take your application.
Chronic fatigue and other autoimmune issues.
Yay!
So it's hard for me to do things sometimes.
Yeah.
And the winter makes it like my body just wants to curl into a ball all the time. At all times. Just curl into a little ball. Play my video games.
Because we should be hibernating.
I agree.
We should be. All right, friends. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Haunted Mitten. And as always, happy haunting.
We're back here to talk to you about LynBDesigns. Not only do they have the best nail polish to rival even those most expensive nail polishes you see on Instagram, but they have stickers, wax melts, shirts, everything cute and adorable and definitely ready for this fall season. So be sure to check out this vegan, cruelty-free brand. You will love them as much as we do. Check out LynBDesigns monthly sales. They are fantastic. I am going to go look at some right now. Thanks.